So to look after that trait for yourself, then you say about doing the internal work. What does that mean to you? What would you say the internal work that you've done to protect your confidence and increase it has been over the journey of 10 years that you've been in the industry?
Do you know what? I think the biggest thing for me, and this is something that I try to preach a lot, especially to like close ones around me. Am I allowed to swear or not?
Yeah, yeah. Swear away.
Just don't give a fuck about what anyone thinks. Because the more that you're constantly thinking, like, oh, I can't do this because of X person's thinking that, it's only going to dampen you and make you feel less confident about doing certain things. And I think the main source of my confidence, and don't get me wrong, there's always going to be thoughts in your head and certain beliefs of, oh, there's going to be a reason for wanting to do this. But something that I've had a lot of personal growth on recently in the past few years is just not giving a fuck. Like, do stuff that you want to do for you that's going to make you feel good and don't care about what anyone else is thinking.
Yeah. It's such a weird human instinct, isn't it?
It is.
To worry about what other people think. And the psychology of that goes so far deep and ingrained. It is almost like overcoming a natural instinct, something that you
Yeah.
believe to be natural. Because I mean, I'd be surprised, Emily, if there wasn't a stage in your life where you really like didn't give a fuck all the time, right? I'm sure there was a point where
Oh,
you
yeah.
used to, and the same with everybody else. But it's until you realize that when you overcome that little barrier of not giving a fuck, and my coach Paul and people that I've listened to before say that you're literally just an extra in somebody else's movie, i.e. their
So true.
life, which is and you're the star, so you have to act like the star for your life to then become well how you want it to be. But it's such a I always find it so hard to believe that even when it comes to habits around food and diet and health and confidence and not giving a fuck on other people think, some of the beliefs that people have are so ingrained in them that they don't really realize that it's them that's creating that thing that's holding them back.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, like, there's always going to be things that you're going to have that slight. You might not even know that you're doing it. It might be more of a subconscious thought of or a subconscious reasoning to not doing something, and it could be you thinking, "What's someone gonna think?"
Mm.
You're always gonna have that with something, especially if it's something new and something that scares you. But even just to work on it like little bit, little by little, it's gonna do so much for your confidence. But like you just said, we're all just in someone else's film as like the tiniest little bit. And everyone, I say this to my clients all the time. It could be for the smallest thing, like filming themselves in the gym for me to check the form. And they're like, oh, but what if someone sees me? I'm like, right, what if someone sees you? And for someone like I understand and I have the sympathy there. That's something that's scary and pushing them out of the comfort zone because they think someone's gonna think something of them for doing that. Just don't give a fuck
Mm.
because they won't care. You just think that they care a lot more than they do
I
because
know,
you're the star in your show, not theirs.
yeah, it's such an interesting like brainwave to go through. And even now, I've been sharing content now for about 5 years. I've been running the podcast 3 years. Even now, still, if I'm on having a bit of a social media like bit of downtime or whatever, going back to do that post that might be a bit leading or drawing somebody out, I still have that little thought at the back of my head that's like, like people are going to be thinking, oh, here he goes again, talking about his podcast, talking about his journey, blah blah blah. But actually, when you post it and you do get those comments that, and I'm fortunate enough in some senses that I'm not at a stage yet where I very rarely ever get any negative comments. Like the odd
Yeah,
time on TikTok, and to be honest with you, like you say, you just like I'm never going to take advice from this person that's giving me negative comments. So
yeah,
and neither should anybody, by the way. If somebody's giving you negative comments, you probably don't want their advice anyway on anything in life. So don't worry about it. But it's still there, and that's after 5 years. Do you still have the same thing at times?
100%. Yeah, 100%. And I think as well, like in the industry that we're both in, there's so many critiques. There's so many people with their own like perspectives and points of view on different things. And similar to what we were saying at the beginning, like how we had different thoughts on a certain topic that led us to film this podcast.
Mm.
There's always going to be people with thoughts. It doesn't mean that they're wrong or right, but it's just making sure that you take everything that either people advise with a pinch of salt, or even the thoughts that you think people are going to say. Like, I think that's it's often a good thing if you're scared as well. It's more of a reason to do something if you're having these seeds of self doubt.